Okay, this is part 2 of taking a look at the Nephilim in the Septuagint. Again, we're using the Net's Bible translation, and this will probably be the last video digging through the Net's Bible translation because of their license restrictions. I want to honor that. So we'll just take a look at a couple more uh, chunks of text here, and then we'll put this one to bed. So I'm in Numbers 24. And again, in the last video, we saw some amazing things, at least best I can interpret, in Isaiah 13 and 14. And it sure looks like God's going to kick the Satan and the fallen angels out of heaven, which matches again uh, what we see in Revelation at the midpoint of the tribulation. And they're going to inhabit or somehow take over Nephilim on earth, and it was called Mighty Ones. And that's, I think, again, the story's coming full circle from the original Nimrod, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that in this video, how potentially we've got it coming full circle where the original world conquering empire, Nimrod, and Babylon is coming right back around in the end times. So that's my premise anyways, and we've seen a bunch of Bible passages that sort of point that way, and hopefully we finish it off here. Okay, so we're in Numbers 24, and Numbers, to give context here, this is the Jewish people are coming toward the promised land. They're going to want to enter, and this is the story with Balak and Balaam, and seeing the Jews come. These are basically what I'm going to propose is the kings of the Nephilim tribes seeing the Jews approach is the context, and then we get this Balaam is the seer, and he's getting a true interpretation from God, and it wouldn't be in the Bible if it wasn't that way, and so we're going to stick with that. And we're going to pick it up here in second half of verse 14, Numbers 24. Balaam says, "And now behold, I am going off to my place. Come, let me advise you what this people will do to your people at the end of days." And Balaam is talking to Balak, and there's a bunch of people standing around him, which we'll see who they are in a second. But the context here is end of days. Okay, and he took up this parable and says Balaam, son of Beor, says, "The man who truly sees, one who hears divine oracles, one who understands knowledge of the Most High, one who sees a divine vision in sleep when his eyes have been uncovered. I will point to him, and not now. I deem him happy, but he is not at hand. A star shall dawn out of Jacob, and a person shall rise out of Israel, and he shall crush the chiefs of Moab, and he shall plunder all of Seth's sons, and Edom shall be an inheritance, and Esau his enemy an inheritance, and Israel acted with strength. And one shall rise out of Jacob, and he shall destroy one being saved from a city." Okay, and that sounds rather messianic to me. It also sounds a little bit like Psalm 83, but we're in the end days here. Let's just keep moving forward. "And when he saw Amalek," okay, Amalek's the Nephilim king, "and he took up this parable. Rule of nations is Amalek, but their offspring will perish. And then he saw the Kenite, and he took up this parable. Strong is your dwelling place, even if you set your nest in a rock. Even if a nest of cleverness accrues to Beor," which I think was his dad, "Assyrians shall take you away captive." And when he saw Og, again, Og's the king of Bashan, and Bashan was the land of the giants, Nephilim again, he took up this parable. "Alas, alas, who shall live when God ordains these things?" Okay. So, let's just finish this off. And one shall go forth from the land of the Kittians, and we can drill that back. It could even relate to the Roman Empire in this time. It could be a reference. And they shall harm, and Asur is really Asher. And Asher is another name for Nimrod, and we'll comment on that in a minute. And they shall harm the Ebrians, and they too, Ebrians, Eber, I believe, was the original founder or the original keeper of the Hebrew language after Babel. The Hebrews kept the Hebrew language, and it was through Eber. And they too shall perish together. And Balaam got up and went away, and he returned to his place, and Balak went home. So I read this passage, one, to get a little bit of help from other people that might have some insight, but for context of end of days, we see somebody rising up to fight and defend, and it's either Jesus in his second coming when he defends against all these armies in the land. That's one thought that I had. And then we see the Nephilim kings, and if we go back and say, okay, what's going on here? Balaam is telling the Nephilim kings that in the end days, the Jewish people are going to crush you, and they may do that by the one that rises up out of Israel. Okay, so let's see if this sticks. We know in the book of Revelation, at the second coming of Christ, the day of Armageddon, he's slaughtering all the world armies that were gathering against him. Now, in the prior video, we said it looks like potentially Nimrod and the 10 Nephilim kings are the ruling class in the end of days. And so if they're the ones bringing the armies against Christ, and here we see Christ going against all of these people in that same land and against the Nephilim kings, I think we see this image of the original Babylonian Empire and the descendants and the seed of Nimrod, where the Nephilim kings are going to be the ones leading the Babylonian Empire in the end times, and they're going to be the ones bringing all the armies of earth to the valley of Megiddo and trying to fight against Jesus, and Jesus will rise up out of Israel and crush and put down that rebellion. So I don't know if people think I'm stretching on that one, but there's something interesting going on in this passage, and so I'm doing my best. Okay, and just to close it off, I'm going to try and tie up one more thing, and I think it might be related. Okay, we're going to Micah 5, and now the daughter will be blocked with a blockage. He has set up siege against us. With a rod they shall strike the tribes of Israel upon the cheek. And again, the context of this is end times, and the nation of Israel is being struck. And you, O Bethlehem, house of Ephraim, are very few in number, among the thousands of Judah. One from you shall come forth for me to become the ruler in Israel, and his goings forth are from old, from the days of yore. Therefore he shall give them up until the time. Now that's a famous passage here. It's messianic, and the context of this passage, though, is end times. So it's talking about Jesus in his second coming. Okay. When she who is in labor shall spring forth, and the rest of their brothers shall return to the sons of Israel, and he shall stand and see and tend his flock in the strength of the Lord. Again, this is now Jesus with the tending of the Jewish flock, and they shall exist in the glory of the name of God, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and this shall be his peace. And again, so now you know we're in the end times, because Christ says first coming was rejected and cut off. At his second coming, he leads the Messianic kingdom, and it goes into eternity. So to the ends of the earth they'll be in peace. Now check this out. When Esau comes into our land, now Esau is translated also Asher, and one of the tricks is Asher is known to be where Assyria, the naming Assyria, came from. And we know Nimrod founded Assyria. So we've got basically when Nimrod comes into our land, and when he treads upon our country, 7 shepherds shall also be raised up against him, 8 stings of people, which I don't know what a sting is, and they shall tend, let's just say Nimrod, with a sword, in the land of Nebrod, which is another translation for Nimrod, with her ditch. And so we've got the tie between knowing that Asher is Nimrod right there. And he shall rescue us from, let's just say Nimrod, when he comes into our land and when he treads upon our borders. And the remnant of Jacob from among the nations in the midst of many people shall be like dew falling from the Lord in the lambs in the grass. And none among the sons of man may assemble or resist. And the remnant of Jacob among the nations in the midst of the peoples shall be like a lion among the animals in the forest, and like a whelp among the flocks, as when it comes to pass through and having made a selection. I'll just stop there. So the context is the second return of Christ. The context is that Jesus is going to be the one that brings the peace to the ends of the earth, and that he's going to be the one that stands up when Nimrod comes into the land. We're talking in the end times. And we've got the connection here with Nimrod and Asher right here. And I leave it to anybody that wants to go research my connection here, but I think that's legitimate. So hope you guys give me some feedback on that one. I think it's just plain interesting. Okay, and now one that is maybe troubling, but I'm going to end the video with this. Again, in the Net's translation, I'm over in Amos 5, and I'm starting in verse 18 just to get context. Woe to you who desire the day of the Lord. Why is it that you say the day of the Lord to you, and it is darkness and not light? Okay, I read this verse only so we get the context of the timing of Amos 5, which is day of the Lord, and that is, one of the hallmark phrases in the Bible, especially Old Testament, to say we're in the final 7 years of tribulation, the day of the Lord. Let's skip down now and we go to verse 26 and verse 27. You even took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Rephan, models of them which you made for yourself, and I will deport you beyond Damascus, says the Lord God, the Almighty is his name. Now, I'm just going to say it and then I'll try and give you a little backup. Moloch, again, is one of the translations of Nimrod. And why do we end up with so many translations of Nimrod? Because at the Tower of Babel, all the population was broken up into 70 population groups, yet all of them were well aware of Nimrod as this famous king, Nephilim king and ruler. He was the world empire ruler, but with all the languages scattered all across the world, we end up with however many dozens of names for Nimrod, and he's known as Moloch in the Canaanite culture. And so here we've got basically a God saying he's frustrated. You even took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Rephan, and that again is another translation for Nimrod. And so let's go see just a quick reference to this one more time, Now I'm coming back to Bible Gateway, New Testament, using English Standard Version, Acts 7. The context is Stephen, if you remember Stephen, he's the first to be martyred for his Christian belief, and he's about to be stoned, and he's giving the Pharisees both barrels on how the Pharisees have this long history of killing the prophets and the people devoted to God. Okay, so this Moses whom they rejected, saying, "Who made you a ruler and a judge?" This man God sent as both ruler and redeemer by the hand of the angel who appears to him in the bush. This man led them out, performing wonders and signs in Egypt and at the Red Sea and in the wilderness for 40 years. This is Moses who said to the Israelites, "Go up and raise up for you a prophet like me from your brothers." So Stephen's telling them about that Moses even predicted the coming of Christ. This is the one who was in the congregation in the wilderness with the angel who spoke to him at Mount Sinai and with our fathers. He received living oracles to give us. Our fathers refused to obey him, but thrust him aside, and in their hearts they turned to Egypt, saying to Aaron, "Make for us gods who will go up before us. As for this Moses who led us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." And they made a calf in those days and offered a sacrifice to the idol and were rejoicing in the works of their hands. But God turned away and gave them over to worship the host of heaven, and is written in the book of the prophets, and this is a reference to the Amos passage we just wrote. "Did you bring me slain beasts and sacrifices during the 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? You took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Rephaim," which again these are both references to Nimrod, "the images that you made, and I will send you into exile beyond Babylon." Now, why is this important? The Jews being captured during the end times and many killed but some dispersed is an end times reference. This star of your god Rephaim is, let's just look here I got Bible study tools and using one of their reference resources here. Just to confirm kind of these translations I've been telling you, Molech, sometimes called Milcorn, the god of the Ammonites, the same as with the name Baal. And if you trace that all the way back again, they're all pointing to Nimrod. Okay, and now I'm going to pick on the star of your god Rephaim. The Alexandria copy reads Rephaim, and the copies Rephaim, and so the Arabic version and others Rephan, and the Syriac version reads Rephan, and the Ethiopic region Rephaim. Giants with the Hebrews were called the Rephaim. So Moloch, who is here meant to be called Rephaim, and is basically a giant. And so I'm tying this all hopefully together for everybody is in the end days, we just saw in that last passage, the Jews will have a star that represents Rephaim or Molech, which is really Nimrod. And one of the big debates, and I almost hate to tread here, is that the Star of David has often been tied to pagan cultures going back possibly to King Solomon, not really King David, but King Solomon had many wives, and in the end of his reign, he adopted the pagan practices of the people that were around him because of the wives he had married. Question, is God telling us both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament in Acts that the Star of David that's on the flag of Israel, is that representing Nimrod, and is God condemning what's going on there? It's he took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Rephaim, the images you made to worship. Yikes. It does tie together because this reference earlier where the Jews are being led out of Egypt and into the desert, and um, Moses goes up on the mountain to receive the Ten Commandments, and the Jews down below make an idol god out of their hands of a bull. The symbolic image way back in ancient days of Nimrod was a bull. And so they were setting up an image to their god, which was the God that they learned from in Egypt. It was a bull, and the bull represents Nimrod. So this whole thing to me is pointing to the satanic influence as embodied by Nimrod in the original Babylonian Empire is what's coming around in the end days. And God's frustrated with the apostate Jews in the land right now, and the fact that they took on the symbol of Molech or Nimrod. So maybe I'm deep in the weeds. I'd appreciate comments on all this. That's why this is in the tinfoil hat series of videos. Looking for feedback. Thank you.